Well, welcome to the show. Dirty Kurt's Dugout here. I'm Kurt Bavacqua. And, there's really a lot going on if you like to read between the lines. I'll get to that in a minute. But first of all, I want to thank our sponsors, Hacienda Casablanca, and also Lacima Oil Company, who's going to provide a little gift card for one of the listeners, one of the viewers, that I'm going to be giving away next week on our show. And all you have to do is answer a question about one of the past couple of shows. So come on in, say hello. I want to pass on some information to you that I think is information that you're not getting. I'll explain that in a minute. But one of the things that happened since we last met is that David Ortiz was elected to Cooperstown, elected to the Hall of Fame. And also, producer Joe is at the helm solo, as in Hans Solo. So I know he's out in East County right now and he's a nervous wreck. So we're not going to ask him to come on with us. But as long as you're hearing and seeing, everything's good, right? So Ortiz gets in the Hall of Fame. Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, as we all know at this stage, were denied for the 10th and final time. Used to be 15, but they downgraded that to 10 years. And now they have to rely on the Veterans Committee to get into the Hall of Fame. Ortiz got in despite supposedly, allegedly, a positive test for PEDS back in 2003. That information was somehow pulled out of the testimony that people had given or that somebody had gotten from a squealer. We all know that Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens never tested positive for PEDS, but it was speculated and has been speculated all along because of the way they look, that they were on the juice. Well, can you accuse somebody under speculation? I don't know. But we can argue about that until we're blue in the face, and it's not going to make any difference. The Hall of Fame knows that it's got some changes to make, and they're going to make some changes. And I'm not talking about the 400 and some odd voters, because for the most part, I think those guys are okay. There's been a lot of back and forth on social media and in the press, which basically is social media now, about the ways and means of the voting and the Hall of Fame and the people making public their vote and other people not electing not to make public their vote. I think that's one of the changes that they have to make immediately. If you're a voter in the Hall of Fame, what are you hiding from? There's nothing to hide from. You get in there, you do your homework, supposedly, and you vote for the 10 guys out of the 40, and I don't know where those numbers came from either. 40 guys on a Hall of Fame ballot every single year, out of the question. It's way too many. There's nobody that's going to get 5 or 6% of the vote in year one, and all of a sudden 9 years later gets 75% of the vote. It's just not going to happen. If a guy didn't get a good percentage of the vote. And by that, I'm talking 35% and up. He's not going to get voted in the Hall of Fame. And if he does, there's something wrong. I'm going to look back and I'm going to see what percentage of the vote Ryan Sandberg and Harold Baines got their first year on the ballot. And I know it sounds a little suspect, me throwing those two guys' names out, but so be it. And next week, when we meet, I'm going to let you guys know how that voting went and what the percentage of increase and all of the stuff that we see on MLB Network nowadays leading up to the Hall of Fame vote, because that's all they talk about for a couple of days on that show. I mean, it fills everything, just like former World Series and playoff games are filling the air now. There are some games that are on there that I'm really enjoying. It's mostly documentaries from Ken Burns, but there are a lot of things on there that I'm enjoying looking at. But we found out with the Ken Rosenthal thing that we're really not getting a true story. And the reason for that is because everybody that works for MLB has a noose around their neck to a degree. They can't go out on a limb and say anything about how the negotiations are going, or they can't tell the truth if, in fact, they uncover some. Let me give you an example regarding the negotiations. I think they should take Clark and Manfred, separate them, and send one to one end of the earth and the other one to the other end, and then let them come back after negotiations are done and the CBA is signed, sealed, and delivered, courtesy of Bruce Meyer and Dan Hallam. That's what I think, because these guys do not like one another. I know Barry Bloom disagreed with me, but I think Barry's full of crap when it comes to this subject. These guys do not like one another. Rob Manfred, I believe, is out to do damage to the union, as he has the last couple of years, little bits and pieces. Tony Clark's fighting for his life and job right now, and these guys are going to go to war with each other unless cooler heads prevail and the lawyers get him in the room and tell him to shake the cobwebs out and let's get this thing going. So here's what's happened in the last couple of days. We all know that these guys aren't meeting for hours every single day to try to get this thing done, even though spring training is supposed to start within 2 weeks. Guess what? That's not going to happen. I just got a call from a friend of mine who is sick over the fact that he just called Scottsdale and canceled his spring training trip that he takes every year with his family to go out and watch baseball. These are the behind scenes things that we're not hearing about. Joe, I know you're not going to come on because you got a lot to do, but do we have any viewers and listeners? Because I'm not seeing people come up on this StreamYard thing. So I'm wondering if I've got the settings wrong, because I want to say hi to people that join us. So if I screwed it up, then so be it. I'm going to have to figure it out on our next podcast. But we're going to shorten this podcast up today, and we're going to bring you more podcasts because of everything that's going on. But getting back to what's going on. Okay. Major League Baseball Players Association agreed, and this was the way it was written, that they would no longer seek to change the 6-year service time requirement to get to free agency. If you're not familiar with that rule, it's the day that a guy reaches the major leagues, he has to have 6 full years before he's eligible to become a free agent. Therefore, giving him the ability to go out and negotiate freely with all of the major league clubs. Six years. And it was written by the national writers that the Major League Baseball Players Association would no longer seek to change the 6-year service time requirement to get free agents. They had asked to lower it to 5. So them pulling that off the table is actually a win for MLB. MLB countered, and again, this is the way it was written. MLB countered by giving up their request to eliminate salary arbitration. Now let's think about those two things for a minute. The Players Association will no longer seek to change the 6-year service time requirement for free agency. And MLB is giving up on its request to eliminate salary arbitration. Those two things alone should tell you where these negotiations are. Where MLB has the Players Association by their throat on the ground and they're choking the hell out of them. That's what those two things are telling. Here's another good one. MLB says that it no longer is offering to take away cost of living increases to the pension plan. So it threatened the Players Association with taking away cost of living increase, which has been implemented ever since I can remember. So they threatened to take it away. And now in their negotiation, they're no longer threatening to take it away. Wow. I tell you what, Tony Clark's fighting for his life. He's fighting for his job. So expect this thing to go on for a little while. Unfortunately. I hate to tell you that. But let me give you another little hint. You remember a short while back, the headlines were, if you're wondering what that giant sunlight that just came in on this side of me is, it's the sun coming in the door entrance right now. And wow, I guess I'm going to have to put a shade on that window if I'm going to continue to do the show from here. But at least it's not blocking me out, which probably a lot of you might want. So we've got a couple more minutes here. If you remember, this big headlines and everything was out in the media where MLB announced that it was going to pay for housing for all minor league players. Well, guess what? It's just come out that the minor league association, and they have no union, trust me, they have no union, is questioning what the offer is for Major League Baseball because nobody knows. Nobody knows what the situation is on how much it'll pay for, whether or not players can bring their families and have them be able to also be housed and not just with 3 other players in the same house, including the woman's husband. And if the guy's got a couple of kids, yeah, minor league players are married and have a family. So it's not like a dormitory setting where Major League Baseball says, I'll pay for the housing for all of these guys, 4 guys to a room, 2 guys to a room, whatever it is. Nobody knows. So with that said, it's a big question mark. And minor league baseball also just announced that this year's AAA schedule will be 150 games instead of 140. We all know that minor league baseball is controlled by Major League Baseball. So what do we got going on here? I'll let you form your own opinion. Dave Chestnut just said, Kurt, I really feel if baseball doesn't get this worked out, they're going to lose out to the NFL. Well, they've already lost out to the NFL. One playoff weekend, if that didn't get tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of baseball fans away from baseball over to the NFL, nothing did. And right now, Major League Baseball, nor, and I'm going to point out the Players Association also, they're doing nothing to promote the game. If they're relying on MLB Network to promote the game the way they're doing it right now, I don't think they've set out to promote the game. But when you've got every major league team blacking out the faces of its players, that's a shame. And the commissioner's office is supposed to act in the best interest of baseball. Players are locked out. They can't go to spring training, which a lot of them would be there by now, working out, seeing the trainers, getting ready for the season. If they have minor injuries, taking care of those things. That's not happening. It's not happening. And it's too bad. So when these two sides decide to sit down again, we'll see how serious they are, because to be honest with you, I'm not sure. You know what? I'm going to jump back in on myself and say, I have an idea of what's going on. And I just got through telling you. When the negotiations are such where the players are talking about not asking for a requirement in their negotiations any longer, that's been that way since free agency came into existence, that's a shame. So we said a lot on this show. We normally say a lot more on other shows. We're going to be back with you. I would love to be able to announce to you right now who the show's guest is going to be next week. But I don't feel comfortable doing it because I haven't heard back from him 100% that he's going to be able to join us. And that he is probably one of the most powerful people in baseball. Scott Boros, who's just up the street from me in Newport Beach. I don't want anybody to think I live close to Newport Beach. It's a ways away on the other side of the tracks. Boy, Newport Beach is beautiful. Scott's offices are up there. We all know his name in baseball. We have communicated. I have given him dates and times for the show. So let's all keep our fingers crossed, because trust me, a lot of these negotiations that are going on right now between the owners and the players are with Scott Boras in mind. Don't you forget that. And I'll bring that up next time we meet. You want this $100 gas card from our friends at Lacima Oil, your neighborhood Chevron dealers? Then listen up to these shows. Tune in every time that we're on the air, and you might be able to win it. So I want to thank producer Joe. He did a great job. He got us on the air. No blips, no slips. I want to thank Hacienda Casablanca out in El Cajon for their continued sponsorship. 700 North Johnson. If you are in the area, stop and see Cindy and Tony and tell them that KB and Joe sent you. Stan, how are you? Thanks for tuning in. I want to see, please click on like, do whatever that it is that people do when they watch shows like this, because I really don't understand it. I'm trying to learn it now, but I know that when you click in, it's a good thing when it shows the numbers. We try to do as good a job bringing you the truth as we can, because I want you to remember something. All of the major national writers that you're getting all your information on, or most of the information, all work for MLB.com. Can I say all? Maybe I'll refrain from saying all. Most work for MLB.com. So when you see an article about what's going on with the CBA, don't look for these guys to bash MLB, because they're not going to do it. Look for them to start bashing the Players Association, because it will get to that when things get really dirty here in the next couple of weeks. And they're going to. So until next time, this is Kurt Bavak with Dirty Kurt's Dugout saying goodbye. And don't forget to tune in and let your friends know about the show. Bye, folks.